Let's take a close look at the best retro gaming console for 2024. But when I actually talk about retro gaming, I mean of course retro emulation. What is the best solution? And I think there's not like a really simple answer to that. So in this video we're going to be having different subjects, basically discussing the best solutions out there 2024, but also with a different price point. Because not everybody needs a $900 PC, for example. Okay, a lot has changed throughout the years when it comes for emulation solutions. I mean, in particular when you're looking at PCs getting cheaper, Android boxes where you're paying over $100 for are getting like half the price or even like 25% of the price. It's nuts. You can pay not a lot of money and still have thousands of different retro games to play. So we're going to be starting up this particular video with the Super Console X lineup. But why the Super Console X is very simple, because it's a lineup of many different devices, but overall the quality was quite consistent in a positive way. Where with a lot of other companies I've been reviewing, there were like the weirdest things out there, sometimes felt like a very quickly released product and had a lot of issues with the SD cards. Besides, let's say, the SD cards that get automatically corrupted after like 3 times you boot it up, I also noticed with a lot of these cheap game boxes, the overall quality was not there, having no cooling or just a thermal paste piece of plastic or whatever on it, and very strange shenanigans I've been seeing throughout the years. So that's the reason why I wanted to focus on the Super Console X to begin with in this video. What kind of option do we actually have here? You really don't need a product from the future, because with the Super Console X lineup we do have all kinds of different, let's say, devices that we can play, different retro game systems. So particular one is the Cube version. We have the first edition, I think the most common one will the X3. And the X3 chip, I just love this thing, because where you cannot play everything like Wii, GameCube, PlayStation 2, but this is just perfect if you don't really care about those platforms. If you just want to get into the old school stuff, think about the 8-bit and 16-bit era, having different kind of handhelds. Also here we do have limitations, so one of the more familiar ones is even having like 1,000 of arcade games or Neo Geo games you can boot up and play. So when it comes to MAME and arcade, there we don't have the option to actually play Tekken or some more advanced games. But where I always speak about limitations, we can still play a lot of cool stuff. Where I love these, let's say, basic boxes for 8-bit, 6-bit, PlayStation 1, you name it, you can just actually play them just fine. And the later systems where we do have upscaling options, or where we're going to be deep diving in later on in this video, we don't have all of these options because these devices are not powerful enough. But for plug and play cheap solutions, yeah, this is just great when it comes to that. So N64 will always be a mixed bag with these low-end stuff, and in combination with Emulation 3.9, I think the emulation is just what it is. But some games are just playable, beside all the glitches and slowdowns. Howdy, partner! Woohoo! Love this game, I've played it as a child so much. But from a technical standpoint, this thing is quite cool to see what they made, because this is not like some basic Android box they slapped into a case and trying to make a quick buck. This is actually one of those cool devices that they put some effort in, having 4 ports that are super convenient to play some N64 or some Sega Dreamcast. And yep, there were a couple of games that are actually playable, so you can still play a lot of games, even if there are struggles sometimes. There is a lot of cool options out there, but I think the Cube is one of my favorite ones. And of course there are so many more of them when it comes to designs, but this is just very cool and it gives a little bit nostalgia feel simply because of the case they're using. You can just see I actually removed the cooling method fairly easy, and they also improved it throughout the different versions they have released. Run just perfect. Music is great. But what I noticed, like this control I'm using now works way better. Where the Super Console X Cube is an out-of-date product in many different ways, I think this is still one of the more appealing devices to me, and the reason why is just the case. The nostalgia vibe is next level with this thing, and the 4 USB ports are like super convenient. And if you're grabbing the X3 model, you do have a little bit of better support with Emulation, and we even have the option to play some Sega Saturn. A cool device with some limitations, but it's still worth picking up if you just want to get some basic emulation going on and you don't need all of the new fancy, let's say different kind of emulators when you're thinking about Wii, GameCube, PlayStation 2 and etc. Another one on my list of favorite devices that are actually worth picking up is the Super Console X X3 Pro. The name already says it, I mean not the Pro, just the X3. This is actually the improved chip, or it's a little bit better power, so we do have overall better support. But what makes this thing one of my favorite ones is not this weird, let's say 8K Ultra HD shenanigans, because that is most of the time a lie. These games are not running on 4K, 8K and all those crazy things. So what you're actually getting with these devices sometimes is just some 1080p output. And as I already said, like most of the games are just running a native resolution. However, when you're getting into this device, I did notice that the quality wise, this thing is quite nice. And with nice, I can actually say better, this thing feels like a really nice quality product because of the case. This gives like a more console feeling, having an on and off switch at the front, enough USB ports, and of course the 2 Wi-Fi antennas you can attach. So where we don't really need any Wi-Fi connection for playing actual games, but if you need to update the system, we can just do it fairly easy, having an option for an SD card and just the necessary ports to connecting this to an HDMI device. If it's a television or a monitor, if it has speakers and HDMI input, you can actually use this device without any problem. But what makes this thing actually pro, or why I actually just love this thing, is that it comes with a built-in storage device like a hard disk. You can swap it out with an SSD if you're going to be cloning the disk, but this is a super convenient way because you can slap in a 1-2 terabyte normal drive for not a lot of money and have like a lot of crazy storage. Particularly when it comes to emulation performance, you can combine this with some, let's say Dreamcast, Sega Saturn and also PlayStation 1, and you have enough storage to store all of your games. And the way how this thing is configured, the overall quality, I was quite surprised by it. I just love this thing with the on and off switch, the nice case design, enough USB ports, great cooling and a 2.5 inch drive upgrade, and we can switch it out to a big one if you want to. It's great for 8-bit and 60-bit, and we do have, let's say, a little bit better performance when it comes to systems like Sega Dreamcast. But this is a great example where we do have a little bit more power than the previous model we discussed here in this video. This thing has a very cool overall, let's say, library of systems, with the newer Emulation having a little bit better options when it comes to emulators, a lot of new improvements, and it has like a significant upgrade of the other version, where the price range between both of the Cube and the Pro are very slim. So I think if you're going to be getting a Pro version like this, we have better performance, but also we're having some cool features like the hard drive. That is absolutely a good thing if you want to emulate PlayStation 1, Dreamcast and Sega Saturn, because they take up so much space, and when an SD card it's not going to be enough, or if you're having like a 1 terabyte, I think these things don't even support a 1 terabyte SD card, it's going to be so much more expensive and it makes no sense whatsoever. Start off with some Sega Dreamcast, and the overall performance with these boxes are becoming so much better. The consideration is just native resolution, because with upscaling it's absolutely a no-go with these boxes compared with a cheaper mini PC that I've reviewed here on the channel. But okay, so let's take a close look at some gameplay, and I can tell you already, Sega Dreamcast runs just fine. Maybe with some minor hiccups here and there, but wow, this is actually the first time I've tested a box that we're having soundtracks. You have this feeling that you're actually listening to me. Because it was one of those freaking annoying things that you're getting a device and there were like games on there that had no freaking audio. And with a game like Assault Rigs, this was pretty damn a shame because it's such a cool game with funky music. And let's be honest, the music of the game is the soul of it. However, the story is kind of similar like with the Cube we'll be discussing. So yeah, we can actually play a lot of different systems, but PlayStation Portable struggles and many other devices too. So, but still, if you want to get something basic, but you do want to have like a cheap upgrade storage possibility, I think the X3 Pro combined with this cooling performance, this is absolutely a very cool device. And we do have options to actually play many different games. But again, the Pro is necessary with this, let's say, SATA drive in the inside. If you want to play some PlayStation 1, you have like a massive library, we're going to be needing a lot of space, and NSD cards are just not a good option because they're way too expensive when it comes to that. However, you need to do a little bit of a tweaking with some systems like PlayStation Portable, but there is a lot of stuff you can still play, but you do need to have like an open mind when it comes to these cheap boxes. We do have like a hit or miss situation when it comes to that. Think about Dreamcast, Saturn, PlayStation Portable. So far I know there is no Wii or GameCube support, but if you love the really old school stuff and you don't mind if some N64 games or some other system will have not the perfect 60 frames per second performance, yeah, I think this can be a very cool viable option. And if you don't care about PlayStation at all, I think you rather get yourself a Cube or something similar, because those are just fine with an SD card. But let's say you just need a little bit more power. So with that, we do have a great overall emulation retro gaming solution. So this is actually if you're having an old PC, because you would not maybe expect it, but really old PCs do have a little bit more power, and combining this with Batocera, the overall performance are significantly better than those cheap boxes you can pick up. However, you can make yourself one or you can actually buy one, but that is going to be a completely different video, because this is another rabbit hole inside of a rabbit hole. Yeah, because PCs, oh man, there are so many options out there. You can look on eBay, a flea market, you know, you can just grab an old PC, slap some Batocera on it, and you will have significant better overall performance. But how much better is it? Of course, it depends of where you're going to be comparing it with. If you're having an old i3, i5, i7 or maybe a dual core, it depends all actually what you want to play and how much money you spend on a PC. However, when you're getting a basic old i5, I did notice a lot of, let's say, games will run so much better. Particularly when it comes to N64 native Revolution, some systems like Sega Dreamcast, Sega Saturn. There are so many devices out there that has overall great support, and now we can even play more games than ever. But let's say you want to grab something from AliExpress and you just wanted to see what is out there and what is a plug and play solution. Some of these mini PC consoles look really cool. I was completely in love with this particular model. However, trying to get it to work was just my first problem, because it came completely dead and nothing booted up. After some tinkering with it, I managed to boot it up with a different hard drive, because the original one was completely fried. However, I also had some problems with RAM module, but how about the emulation performance? We have been chit-chatting about PCs having better performance, but this was an upgrade that was almost, I would say, a downgrade, because it was similar. Similar in having a PC, but now running a really old one, like a 1000 series Intel Celeron. And that's what they're particularly doing when it comes to these mini PCs. And don't get me wrong, they're like super cheap, under $100, and they come complete with everything installed when it comes to the software, but also when it comes to, let's say, the controller, everything is just ready to go. And this is one of those cool plug and play solutions. The downside is having an old CPU, GPU will not give us like a massive increase of a boost when it comes to performance. Where we do have all kinds of systems like Wii, GameCube, they will not run great on these old pieces of hardware. But let's jump into something more positive and a better way to play. So having these very strange custom 3D printed cases, in the inside we're finding an Intel N100. And for a budget solution, the N100 is an overall quite nice performance chip, where it's not to be compared with, let's say, the higher end stuff. I think this is a very reliable step up when you're looking at the cheap game boxes. Don't even start about the cases, they made a couple of them, but the N100 is a very cool plug and play solution with overall great performance. But if you're going to be looking at the mainboard, it will come with some limitations, not only like CPU, GPU power wise, but also when it comes to the RAM module. You can only have one single slot. Everything's complete, and it seems to be that this is a brand new mainboard slapped into this 3D printed case, and this is one of those maybe better reliable upgrades, but still on a budget. We do have some more options now, so don't expect, like say, supreme performance but super upscaling. We can do a lot of cool stuff with this device if my freaking controller works. Okay, does it work? Yeah, there's like a weird thing going on with recognizing the controller. So yes, loosen 2.0 port, and I think that will do the trick. However, if you're going to be looking into the games itself, yeah, PlayStation 1, we can maybe do a little bit on upscaling. PlayStation 3 is, in my opinion, out of the question. And yeah, we do have overall better performance with Atomic Wave, having some better Dreamcast Saturn, and maybe you can even do a little bit on upscaling. And I think that is a very cool overall option with the N100. And here you can see it boots up without any problem, even in the right aspect ratio. Some of the emulators will have problems with the audio, but there's again a little bit of a tweaking going on. Everything of the controls have been set, so you don't need to do anything about that. They are implementing a scanline filter, but these games will run just fine without any problem most of the time. The N100 is a capable chip and even capable to run some games of the Windows platform. I think they're using the Proton, or this is a different configuration. However, this may be a fun overall idea to look into it, and we'll see what we can actually do more in the end, because this is absolutely awesome. We have many games to emulate. We can also just play Windows games and newer generation games like the Turtle game. I just wanted to do a little bit of upscaling for 720p, and the main reason is just wanted to see how far we can push it. Take note that the GPU of the Intels are not my favorite ones on board, with a simple reason, because these things do struggle. We can also lower to 480p, and also depending what kind of game you want to play, but some games are very easy to emulate and you can just even maybe get a little bit of a higher resolution going on. So let's try Cruising USA. Man, I love this game. And of course, there's also a great test, because a lot of these game systems, or at least the cheap ones, are struggling. But with the mini PC, we can even do a little bit of upscaling with this particular model due of the GPU and the newer chip they were having. So having a 40p rendering resolution, and you can just actually see that we're having 30 frames per second. So far, no problems. Sometimes when I'm saying it a little bit too out loud, it just starts stuttering automatically. But the point is that you can see we're having a little bit of play with it, and 40p is just fine. It looks great. But if you want to get into higher overall, say, options, what you need to do is find a mini PC that has maybe an AMD Ryzen chip with a more powerful GPU combination or built-in, or maybe have a different configuration, or an old PC with a GPU in the inside to have overall better performance. But that's it. So N64 is playable, so that's kind of cool. So next up, the GameCube, another great system with very nice titles. However, if you want to play some games with this, we can do a little bit of an upscaling. However, I've been testing it with 1080p, but this is way too much. And also depending what kind of game. If you have two-dimensional games, you can do a crazy upscaling where we're having like two three-dimensional games. We have, let's say, less overall performance when you're going to be upscaling to higher stuff. So if you're on a budget and we do want to have a little bit more options when it comes to emulation, this mini PC is a plug-and-play N100 solution. And of course, if you're going to be making it yourself, it's going to be so much more significant cheaper. But this is one of those options where you have a little bit better performance when many new systems have been added to the list. So this is one of the ways, but let's go to another thing we can do. So if you have no budget and you just want the best out of the best, I did get myself a couple of PCs that were quite interesting. But if you're going to be seeing this video in the future, those PCs are getting cheaper or being replaced with different ones that are going to be, yeah, even more powerful, and you're getting even more performance for your money. But for now, the N100 is a great chip, and later on maybe a different chip of Intel will come by that is also cheaper and has more power, so we have better performance for less money. Super Console X also released more expensive mini PCs, and they were like completely overpriced. I just want to be clear about that, because when you're going to be looking at the specs they are using, it's kind of cool, but also laughable because they're not the newest ones out there. However, this G6 model that came by many names, I don't know if it's going to be even for sale in the future. So this was actually an i9, yep, a 9th generation with a built-in GTX 1650. 16GB dual channel DDR4, and of course having a new model we also maybe have one with DDR5. However, it comes also with pre-installed Windows. This was Windows 10, but later model does have Windows 11, I guess. However, when you're going to be looking at this cool design, I just love the design itself, and they released it with many different specs, including the RTX 2060. The overall design was like similar to a laptop because it was based on laptop technology, and just the hard drive is over there, 2 TB, with the image of Batocera. And again, you can just make these things yourself, and the overall performance, it's quite good when it comes to the cooling. The downside is this thing sounds like a freaking vacuum cleaner. But if you're getting into the league of high-end or at least more powerful mini PCs, we don't have anything to complain when it comes to overall performance. I mean, when you're going to be looking into the basic stuff where we had like a lot of struggles, we couldn't upscale, think about PlayStation 1, we do have all of the options now because of the dedicated GPU that is attached into this mainboard, or at least on the mainboard itself. It's not actually replaceable. I just want to be clear about that. So when you're getting something like this, it's just as it is, and the performance, you cannot upgrade the CPU as the GPU. So what I love about these devices, that N64, Sega Dreamcast, you name it, you can boot it up, GameCube, Wii, you have all kinds of cool stuff that you can actually be played, and even do a little bit of an upscaling left and right. Okay, let's start off with some Sega Dreamcast, but not we're going to do this basic resolution. With 640 by 480, we're just going to push it up to the full HD just to see how it runs. But with a system with this kind of power, you just need to have like the best, let's say, resolution set to it, because that's what we're going to basically paying for. So recently I did try some different boxes, but we got like a lot of action with these cheaper chipsets. But here you can see even like upscaling to high resolution, it doesn't need to be a problem whatsoever. Plays on the Thomas Wave, where we had so many issues with this game in previous boxes. We do get occasional hiccup. I did put them on the higher resolution like I did with the other games. I just wanted to see how it runs and how it will look. Alright, so next up I wanted to play some PlayStation 1 with full HD resolution in combination with DuckStation, just to see how it runs and how stable it is. Of course, now we have like such a powerful box that we can play easily games like this on higher resolutions. Pretty damn cool. It still looks like shit. Like I say, like the mini PC is going turbo mode now, so basically this thing pushes it to the limit. I'm curious if we can actually play some PlayStation 3 with ray tracing now. In the previous Super Console mini PC they had a lot of issue because it was not powerful enough, but with power like this, it should be having no problem whatsoever. I have set it to 1080p. I'm just curious like how fast it will load up and how it will run. Now we do have some weird glitching going on, maybe we can fix with another thing, but I just wanted to see how the speed of the game is. Because yet, with the Vulkan backend we can even push it up to 1080p. Where we're normally going to nerf the freaking PlayStation Portable, we're just going to push it to the maximum level. We're going to leave the buffer on, everything that we're normally going to do with tweaking to getting the best performance. We're even going to upscale it to 1080p, just to see how we're going to get some results. We do some minor hiccups here and there, but besides that, we do get an amazing performance. So yeah, if you're adding a hard disk to your mini PC, and it can be a more powerful one than this one, the performance is going to be so much significant better. There are many different options out there. Actually, in my opinion, there are 3 tiers to go to, from super low budget, mid-range and high-end. Depends on how much money you want to spend, and of course what you actually want to play, because you don't need to spend a lot of money for a mini PC that you're not going to be using in the end. You can do a little bit of upgrading with some of these devices with faster memory, better memory, dual channel, whatsoever. But yeah, CPU, GPU related, there's nothing we can do. Thank you all for watching. Consider subscribing. Let me know in the comments what kind of mini PC solution would you think about, or at least like a solution. What kind of games do you want to emulate in general? And subscribe, hit the little bell, and it would be great to see you in the next video.